I've just earlier recorded a video about hospital visiting with someone who's got dementia, to see someone who's also got dementia. And I've ended up laughing my head off at what I said. And then I realised that I started that video on quite a sombre note. So I'm doing another introduction to it, just in case you start looking at it and you think, well, this is going nowhere. Because believe me, by the end of the video, hopefully you will be in stitches laughing the same as I was. Anyway, so here's the original. This is my second introduction to it. Hello again. Last time I spoke to you in person like this, from behind my little red box, I was talking about the sensitive subject of dementia. But I did say at the end of that video that, yes, that was quite, sad, emotional in some respects, when you realise someone is actually going into dementia and it's your first signs and you're starting to thinking, oh, what's happening here? In the end, I lived for 7 years with both my parents, and my dad throughout that time did have vascular dementia, and so his character didn't change, his personality didn't change, he still had the same sense of humour, but he was not in contact with the present day in any way, shape or form. But my mother, who was 5 years older than him, she didn't show signs of it until some years after they'd moved in. And I probably missed most of the early signs anyway. But then she really did start showing signs. And by the time she was 90, she wasn't full-blown dementia. I would say she was still in touch with who we were and what was happening on a day-to-day basis, but a lot of her thinking was very skewed. So things didn't make sense quite often, although they did to her. And just after her 90th birthday, she was taken ill and had to go into hospital. And for anybody who knows, who's been with elderly parents, knows that when they have got to go into hospital, often that can accelerate the signs of them being very unsettled. And if they are in dementia, it will often hasten the arrival of full-blown dementia. They'd been married for 65 years and they were living with us in our grandparents' annex. And they had never really been apart. They were together everywhere. They were known for it. If you saw one, you saw the other. And it was an unknown thing for them to be separated. So when she did have to go into hospital and Dad was at home without her, he was quite lost and had to spend a lot of time with him. And then the day came when I said, right, Dad, we're going to visit Mum now. Yeah, where is she? Where's my wife then? She's in the hospital, Dad, and we're going to go and visit her. Oh, right, she's in the hospital. Yes, Dad. Where's my wife then? She's in the hospital, Dad. We're going, you get your clothes on now. We get changed, get dressed. We're going to go and see her. Oh, good, right. Where's my wife then? And this is how the pattern went all the way. Getting ready, leaving the house, getting in the car. Where are we going? When we're driving there, where are we going? Where's my wife then? Where's my wife then? We arrive at the hospital. We go up in the lift to the ward. He's in a wheelchair at this point and I'm wheeling him. And we're wheeling down the long corridors. Where's my wife then? We're just going to see her, Dad. Won't be a minute. We'll be there in a minute. I hope you're all nice and spruced up and you've done your hair properly. Put your best pecker on because we're going to go and see her. So we arrive, we find the ward and we're directed to where to go to her. And we're walking down the corridor and we see on the right-hand side the 4-bedded ward that she is in. And she's in the first bed on the far side and can see us coming. So she's sitting up in bed, pushing her hair up, making herself look all smart. And she always was very concerned with how she looked. Every morning she would get the mirror out, sit at the table and say, beauty salon's open, and then start to make herself up and put all her jewellery on. So that, not like me at all, but that was my mother. So I wheel her into the ward. She's sitting up in the bed. She recognises me and she says, ooh, that's a fine looking gentleman. So I say, well, I'm glad you think so. You've been married to him for 65 years. Have I? Oh, I'm a lucky lady. It was like she'd never seen him before. Meanwhile, he obviously did recognise her, and he was thrilled to bits that she thought he was a fine-looking gentleman after 65 years together. So the pair of them were quite sort of in the early throes of a romance almost. You could have cut the atmosphere with a knife. She fancied him, he fancied her by the look of it. So, yeah, we're sitting there. He's stopped asking where she is now, and I'm holding the conversation together and asking her how everything's going, and she was full of news about what had gone on in this 4-bedded ward. Well, you would not believe it. Honestly, you wouldn't. Well, what she told me was the lady in the bed opposite, who must have been in her 90s too, and had been comatose most of the time we were there. I hadn't seen a flicker. She's been at it on the bed with one of those young doctors. It's disgusting that I'm sitting here and I've got to see that. Sorry, but the very notion that she'd been this lady in the bed opposite, who I could only actually see the tip of her nose because she was laying flat out and hadn't moved, and neither had she moved on the previous times when I'd visited Mum on my own when she was in there without Dad. She'd been at it with a young doctor. Well, lucky her. I think at her age, if she had been at it with a young doctor, yeah, that would be a mark on her chalkboard. But I'm sure she hadn't been. Obviously, she hadn't been. This was all in Mum's imagination. But isn't it strange where the imagination goes? Because, I mean, my mother would never really have talked about sex in any way. She didn't with any of us. She did tell me, she sat me down one day years ago when I was about, 11, I suppose, and said she was going to tell me about the birds and the bees. And she said that a man put a seed inside a woman and it grew into a baby. Well, that was fine, but I had a notion of a seed being a tiny little thing that you get out of a packet when you're planting. I was familiar enough with gardening to know what a seed looked like. So then I had to figure out how did he put it in her. So I decided that he would leave it on because I knew a baby came out of the nether ends and nowhere else. So I decided he must have gone in the bathroom, left it on the toilet seat, and she must have gone in just after and sat on it, and that's how it got in there. So I used to watch them for quite a long time. If he went in the bathroom, I'd look to see if she went in not long after him. Maybe I'm the one with dementia. But that was a 10-year-old child's eyes. I know how it works now. So then she starts talking about the lady in the left side bed to her. Now this lady also is in about her 90s, I should think. Again, they were all very elderly in that ward, and Mum was the only one sitting up to talk. The other three were all laying down, mouths wide open. This lady in particular, because we were closer to her, I could see she hadn't got her teeth in. She was all gummy and her mouth was wide open, and I don't think she could hear what was going on or anything. She was in her latter days. There was no doubt about that. But my mother thought that she was my younger sister, Christine. And you know what? She'd never spoken to her. She didn't know what she'd done to upset her. It was awful being there in the same room with Christine all that time and Christine not talking to her. I mean, she'd always been nice to Christine. Christine had always been lovely. She'd never been anything but lovely. And now here she was not talking to her. And she didn't know what she'd done to upset her. When I told my sister Christine, well, you can imagine. Because she's younger than me, and we were both quite a bit younger at that time, at least 20 years ago. So there she was. My mother thought she was this lady in the bed all gummy with no teeth who was in her 90s, and she wasn't talking to her. She'd also seen her mother and her father come in. They'd come down the ward, but they hadn't come to visit her. They'd gone straight past. They hadn't even nodded at her. And she didn't know who they were visiting in that ward, but who could be more important than her? Nobody. So there we are. We've visited. Time's come to say goodbye. Neither of those two wanted to say goodbye to each other. They were smitten. But of course we had to. So I say my goodbyes. I can't wait to get home to ring my sister Christine to tell her the news. So we're going up the corridor. We hadn't gone more than, I don't know, 50 steps when Dad says, "Where's my wife then?" And that's how it goes all the way home. Oh dear, yeah. Well, I did tell you. Some of these stories, some of the things that happened were side-splittingly funny. And when you can ring your relatives, I had got support. I hadn't got any of my family living near me. My husband was a tremendous support. But I've got, siblings, and they were all on the end of a phone. And I knew if I was really struggling that they would come. But it was enough mostly to just give them a call and update them with the fact that they're 90 years old and got no teeth. Oh dear. Sorry, I'm going to have to stop now. I find I'm laughing too much. So, well, hopefully I've made you laugh too, because yes, there is some side-splittingly funny sides to dementia, and you've got to try and hang on to those. And I think we've managed to do that, thankfully. Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't hard. It was terribly, terribly hard at times. And you go from 1 minute laughing with tears of laughter, and then it's tears of sadness. And that's the way life goes. But if you're there, if you're in the middle of this, I hope you're noting some of these really funny times. I'm sure you're having them just like I was. And later, when you're looking back on what's happened during this period, hopefully you'll be able to end up laughing your head off, as I've just done too. So once again, if you stayed to the end of this, well done. You stuck with me. And I'll hopefully see you the next time. Until then, happy rambling.